trying to disingenuously call Medicare for all. This particular plan helps all of like 3 people, but it's being cast as a plan to help African Americans. I have no issue with specific plans to help African Americans, but if you're going to do it right. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoy this content, you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like this video, share this video only if you like and indeed, only if you indeed like the video, but also please consider supporting this content through PayPal or Patreon. I am forced to say that YouTube is somewhat of an untrustworthy actor in regard to its monetization feature, so even $1 helps. I am about to go to a Bernie Sanders debate party. But I saw this weird scheme of sorts that Kamala Harris is putting out as a plan to deal in some weird way with college debt, but also to deal with, I suppose, of helping historical black colleges. As if, if you're trying to help a disadvantaged community, that the only place they go to are black colleges. The plan basically is to dump money into black colleges, into STEM projects, and this notion of trying to, I guess, to dump money into these programs. But basically the key feature that I want to focus on is ultimately it's this. People who get Pell Grants, and then from those people who get Pell Grants, people who start businesses, and who start businesses in disadvantaged communities, and who keep those businesses for 3 years, they can get their debts wiped. That's her plan. Her plan is going to help like 4 people. Do you realize that the majority of businesses fail? Meaning that you come up with a process whereby their debts are not going to get wiped, regardless of people trying to be within the context of a program. I mean, you have to literally start a business in a black community in order to, that's astonishing. What happens to the debt that's on that person's back in the time frame it takes them to get out of school, start a business? What happens? The debt is still dragging down the economy, dragging down the society itself. You've essentially come out with a college debt plan that doesn't really help anybody. And going beyond that point, you realize there are plans already in place similar to what Kamala Harris is talking about that is rife with fraud. The teachers are suing over student loans that weren't forgiven. The teachers got into a program that said, if you do X, we will pay off your student loans. Essentially the exact same thing that Kamala Harris is talking about. And guess what happened? When they tried to get that money paid off, they were told, oh, you're in the wrong program. This is after 10 years. This is after they were in those programs for like a decade. Oh, you were in the wrong program. Sorry. Oh, there's some other technicality. Sorry. They're suing over this because these people were screwed over. That's the program, effectively, that Kamala Harris is talking about with a twist on it in regards to supposedly black colleges. Here's the thing. Don't half-ass it. When you half-ass it, it can be picked apart. Social Security, Medicare are still here because those programs are loved by the overwhelming majority of the population, being Republican, Democrat, white, black, gay, straight, and everybody across the board, because they work. They do the job that they're supposed to do. They can be improved, they can be made better, but ultimately they work. These Ponzi schemes can be picked apart. If you really want to help African Americans, Kamala Harris, the person who's now calling herself black when at first she was calling herself Indian, if you really want to help African Americans, don't just dump money into historical black colleges. What you do is jump on Sanders' plan. Get rid of college debt. I've read a Bloomberg article on this channel that showed that the wealth gap between blacks and whites was 12-1. And when you get rid of college debt, it goes to 5-1. That's astonishing. Because what that means is that there's plenty of African Americans who are trying to go to school, go to college, to better themselves, and either maybe don't necessarily know what they're going for, meaning they don't necessarily know what they like, get saddled with all sorts of debt, maybe have to get out of school for some kind of reason and they get stuck with the debt without having a degree to use it, maybe even get out of school and can't use the degree, whatever the reason, they get saddled with debt. If you get rid of that debt, just wipe it away, you get rid of the wealth gap. I'm making the point that if you want to do something, do it right. And you can get more direct with assistance if you want to do that in the way that you're trying to cast this particular quote-unquote debt reduction plan. Do it right. Do it right. As an African American, let's say you were brought up in a disadvantaged community. If you had the opportunity to go to school, and there were schools out there, colleges, where you can get a 4-year degree, a master's degree, and not necessarily leave without all sorts of debt on your back, this is what will happen in your society. All sorts of people who are locked out of school go to school because now they don't have all this debt on their backs. And then these schools, these historical black colleges, are filling with students now because guess what? They don't have these debts on their backs. If you want to cover the cost for historical black colleges, do that. I'm just making the point that your society at that point will have schools that are full of people, especially the schools where people don't necessarily have to pay out of pocket. And in a generation, all of those students, all of those schools that were bursting with students who could go now are starting businesses. They're starting companies. The creativity and everything, this capitalistic expression gets... Why? Because you've opened the floodgates of creativity that allowed people to express themselves through having that education that you, as a society, has given to them. And they, in turn, gave back to you when they started their businesses, their companies, got into their professional careers and everything else and pushed their society forward. It is a motor car for economic and capitalistic development, if that's where you want to go with that from the standpoint of the right. From the standpoint of the left, as a moral argument, an individual should be able to go and pursue their education dreams. I take that as somewhat of a moral basis. I think that is the same thing with healthcare. If your society has the ability to do it, your society should do it. It's better for the society itself, for the people of that society. This is half-ass. And it doesn't even do the job of being half-ass. Kamala Harris, neoliberal. And I'm not even getting to the healthcare plan yet, where she's defending insurance companies. She doesn't seem to know what she wants to do. She's finally settled on a plan. And this plan, for the most part, is one step away from privatizing Medicare. She's calling it Medicare for All. It's Medicare Advantage, where she has insurance companies under regulation. It is literally it's insurance companies falling to fallback position with the notion that as long as we can stay within the context of the market, we can always make gains. She's protecting them from the likes of Sanders and maybe even Warren, who's trying to get rid of them altogether. I hope you understand what I mean. If you think of this as a military conflict, there's fallback positions. The insurance companies have ran so roughshod that people have been pissed off at the insurance companies, in which case you reap the whirlwind where public hates your guts and wants to get rid of you. You have certain candidates in a race who are vocalizing getting rid of them. And in a fallback position, Kamala Harris has been able to essentially kind of make the argument to him, kind of like in an FDR way of, look, I'm going to keep you intact, but what I need you to do is give me money, and you're going to give me money, and I'm going to have this fallback position where I'm going to keep you in the market, but you're going to be regulated. But the fact that they're still within the market itself allows them to make gains. Why do we need a New Deal? You need a New Deal because the capitalist class was able to make gains from wherever they were at that particular time. It took 40 years, but nevertheless, here we are. They're leeches, and they're an unnecessary process in the insurance market. And the fact is, they're still a profit-driven organization. Do you really want, you have cancer, pay me. You have AIDS, pay me. Do you really want healthcare to be put into this context of capitalism where they're making profit off of illness? Personally, I don't. I think it's morally reprehensible. Kamala Harris apparently does not. I'll leave this here. Thanks all. Like, share,